By all means, Barclay College shouldn't exist. It was started out of an act of faith, and it has carried on through the past century into the present day because of the sacrifice and faithfulness of the staff, faculty, and former students. We decided that this college is truly unique among many, and that this amazing story of how God has brought Barclay to become the place of transformation that it was then and continues to be, needed to be documented for both the present and the future generations of Barclay.
What really caused us to create this documentary is to capture the story of this little college. After hearing about what this college has been through, it has remained consistent in who they are, which is why this college still stands today. God has moved in our lives and has transformed us from the inside out through our time at Barclay, and it seemed only right to document that impact through the years. This is the story of Barclay College, a light on the prairie.
Well, the original Friends came to Haviland as a part of a dream by Benjamin and Anna Albertson, who longed to create a Quaker community. They left Indiana in the spring of 1884. They traveled to Rose Hill, Kansas, where Benjamin talked 3 other young men to join him, and they came out to Kiowa County, which had been open for settlement earlier that year. And from Haviland, Benjamin advertised in a number of Quaker magazines, inviting others to come because he wanted to create a Quaker community. Education seems to have been a very dominant idea in the community from the very beginning in 1884, when there were 14 children that moved here onto the prairie that fall. In the spring of '85, with several families coming, there were a total of 21 children. And so they opened a school using a new half-dug shack on Bernie Mills property. And when within a week that building was destroyed in a windstorm, the school moved to the front room of the Riley Woodward home, one of the newest families that joined them. With the completion of the sod church, the school met in the church until a frame building was built downtown in 1887. In 1891, they built a small frame building here on the hill where the college sits, which became later the main dormitory for the Friends Haviland Academy. But there were a number of people in the community who wanted something more than just an academy. They were wanting to be able to train students and hating to see them go off to California and go off to Ohio and never return. So they met together in December of 1916 to see what they could plan. They were able to make subscriptions to raise money for support, and they actually had the Kansas Central Bible Training School registered with the state of Kansas and open for classes by September of 1917. The days of the Depression and the Dust Bowl were very difficult days for everyone in Kansas, especially for a faith-based Bible school that relied on tuition and donations for its existence. As the Dust Bowl became worse in this part of Kansas, Nebraska, many people left and created new communities in Idaho. But the college survived by having a number of things. They allowed students to pay in kind, and rather than in cash. They actually used that in-kind material, whether it was beans or produce of whatever kind it was, to pay the instructors in kind as well. The development campaign that they were working on was dropped, publications were curtailed, classes were alternated or combined, expenses were cut in every possible way. But with God's grace, the faculty continued on sacrificially, and as conditions became better, those faithful to the college again began to contribute. But in reality, the only real resource that the college had during that time was the Lord Himself. During the time of World War II, the 1940s, the college sort of settled in and began to expand, particularly its education program and music. The music program was greatly enlarged. Numbers of musical groups, including trios and quartets, were scattered all over the country in what they called the heralds, gospel teams. The college during that decade became known for its inspirational and enjoyable music. But it was also a time for building, which was good because after the war, there would be an increase in the student population. In the early 40s, two houses, one a two-story house about 3 blocks from the present college, were purchased to create dormitories for girls. Repairs were made on the original building, and later, 1947, 1948, there was a new multi-purpose building, Phillips Hall, that was constructed. That new building housed the classrooms, the administrative office, girls' residence rooms, a new library, a dining hall, and a kitchen. Well, with enlarged enrollment after the war, the college experienced a real growth in population, and not only a number of students, but also the number of faculty and the number of buildings as well. Several barrack buildings were skidded on logs from Pratt Air Force Base, pulled by tractors all the way, and those buildings joined together became residence halls for men. Just as the war ended, Phillips Hall was ready for occupancy, and the additional dormitories that were purchased for the women, all of those were filled during that time immediately after the war. So it was a time of building, pulling out all the stops to provide as much space as possible. In fact, I believe it was in 1945, the college ran out of chairs. There weren't enough chairs or tablet chairs for all the students, so they had to purchase those at the last minute in order to make space in the classrooms for the students that they had. Well, the original building, which is sometimes known as Founders Hall and sometimes as Music Hall, was a sort of a Spanish building made out of plastered brick with stucco on the outside. It was kind of a one-of-a-kind building. It also housed the entire campus. Classrooms, offices, everything was in that one building. And later, when Coppic Hall, the next building that was built, was made, it was also made with red brick to match. Although the bricks aren't a perfect match, they're still both red brick buildings. Hawkett Auditorium was made out of cement block, and it was never faced with brick, but it was a student project that was built basically as economically as possible, and it's always been painted as sort of a gray color. The Broadhurst Student Center, for whatever reason, used brown brick instead of red. I'm not sure why that change was made, but it didn't match either of the two buildings that already existed. The buildings built just after Broadhurst, the Warden Memorial Library, which was a steel building, was lined with brick to match Broadhurst. The brick for Jackson Hall also matched Broadhurst. And then when Lemons Hall was added to Broadhurst, it used the same kind of brick so that it appeared to be a part of the original. The Ross Ellis Center, the latest building, contains both red brick and brown colors that tie it into the styles of the other two buildings, including Lewis Hall, which was also made somewhat to match Coppic Hall that it sits beside. The original gymnasium at the college here was the first actual gym in this part of Kansas, but it was a very confined space with a low ceiling and very difficult to get both spectators and athletes together in the same place. Early 50s, students came to President Jackson and said, we would like to have a larger, better, more up-to-date gymnasium. And of course, President Jackson said, I'd like it too, but I don't have the funds to create one. So the students said, what if we created it ourselves? And he gave them permission to do so. They started a campaign that raised the initial monies. In addition to that campaign selecting donations. They had sales, and they did work and contributed that money to the fund. They bought some of the last steel arches that came out of the Bethlehem Steel Company that were shipped by rail. And once those were set up and in place, then the students themselves began to place the cement block and to do the forms that created the bleachers, so that most of the work in the building itself was by the students. All along, the administration of the college was attempting to make sure that the college was in fact accredited, and it was a frustrating process because there were so many times that the state of Kansas kept changing the requirements. But it was also felt that as a Bible college we needed to have biblical accreditation. So in 1947, which is the same year that basically Phillips Hall began, a new organization came on the scene called in those days the American Association for Biblical Colleges, AABC. We became a charter member of AABC in 1949. But as we were working as a charter member, we were also working for full accreditation, and that was actually achieved in 1974. And every 10 years since 1974, we've gone through a 10-year review successfully. And over the last 20 years, after several beginning attempts, we have also received regional accreditation. Accreditation has given value to the college because it gives us credence as far as a recognized institution. It gives us standards to withhold so that the education at Barclay is going to be comparable to any other accredited college. And it has allowed us to become part of various financial programs and other state programs that without accreditation we would not have been able to have been a part of.
The president at that time was Charles Ball. They had brought back here from Ohio. A very outstanding man, a very good president, and he was able to help them get on their feet financially. I was in a class of 20 students, which was the largest academy class they'd had up to that time. And they had a 2-year college program, so we had academy and college, and there were about 60 of us totally in the two. And that's some of the history back then. We only had one building, which was this building, and it was included all the college and academy classes in that one building. It had a large room, which was a chapel, and that's where we also went for study hall.
When I came in as a non-traditional junior, 27 years old, and got to know people fairly quick. Robin Johnston was the president at the time. They wanted to rename the college to Barclay for several reasons, one of which was the confusion with Friends in Wichita. So many people were thinking Friends Bible College, oh, Wichita. Sunday afternoons were the worst. There was nothing to do. The town was dead. There weren't even dogs and cats moving. So we wound up learning to ride horses and rope out at Kent Benford's arena.
And it was much smaller. I think our student body was less than 100 when I was here as a student. Chapel was every day of the week. And then I think by the time that I ended, it was actually 3 days a week that we had chapel. And we moved to a schedule my junior and senior year of no classes on Monday morning and no classes on Friday afternoon, so that we could send ministry teams out. And that was really a big part of my college life experience here, is that they were trying to get students out all the time to do ministries.
I don't remember there being intramurals.
There wasn't.
And I don't remember there being small groups.
There wasn't.
I would say there was a lot of similarities to how the campus is now, as far as it was, but we were smaller. I think there was only 74 students when I came, but it was the same. Students trying to figure out who they were, breaking the rules, pushing the boundaries. We couldn't wear shorts to class. That's one thing that was different. We didn't have air conditioning in any building. There was not the selection of food that you guys have. There wasn't pop. It was just tea and water and milk.
No, Joe got pop.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember there being pop.
There was.
But I don't think there was the selection like the students have today. I remember a lot of times the meal was just macaroni and cheese. That was the meal.
Supper. We had chapel 3 times a week.
It was required.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Same. We got 5 skips.
And I think that you had to go to church 2 out of 4 Sundays and you had to bring a bulletin back to show that you'd been to church. I remember getting bulletins for some reason.
Your resident director made you do that.
My resident director made me prove I was in church.
Ours did not.
It was probably about 100 students, maybe a little less. I think my incoming class was maybe right around 50, so that was, half of the school. You definitely felt like you, for the most part, you knew everybody. Like there wasn't anybody's name who you didn't know, or anybody that you didn't know, at least part of their personality. This was pre-screen, at least pre-cell phone screen, so I think that you saw a lot of people using the student center. This was before that, you probably don't even know, the renovations in the Bears Den. So, but there was still like a ping pong table. I remember playing hours and hours of ping pong and lots of like cards in the student center, group movies in the student center. So those kind of places were used quite a bit.
Where the Newman's dorm was, it was just the dirt parking lot. That's where we all parked. On that other side, there was the sand volleyball court. Where their new parking lot is, there's a sand volleyball court and something else. There wasn't much change. I mean, Barclay is not known for great change. I think that's what makes it good. I mean, that's, I think, where that myth of the bubble comes from, is that there is a sense of stability that occurs.
There were a lot of pranks in the dorms, especially in the guys' dorm. We would have people that were past graduates come back and pull pranks on as freshmen. And then when we were upperclassmen, we would pull pranks on freshmen because it was just like a tradition. Chapels were good. We had to walk 4 blocks. But they were good because we had different speakers come. And when they would come, they would speak about like things that would relate to what Stuco has set for the year. Barclay was very inclusive when I was here. There was various activities that included everybody, from the people who were shy to the people who are outgoing.
For you, how did watching what your dad did change the perspective for you as a president?
Oh my. My father is just a remarkable person, and what he did, I could never have done. I mean, I tell people that he was faced with kind of raising this place from the ashes as a one-man team, and he did it. And Dad is well capable of doing that. I could not do that.
I really didn't want to be the president, yet I knew the college was having problems. So I went to the president of the board, which probably was out of place for me to do. And I said to him, if there's any chance there's some consideration of closing this college, I would like to have an opportunity along with the board to bring it back.
In this transition, there were some difficulties with the college, particularly financially. And I think that really was one of those things that just kind of didn't sit well with people over the years, always living on that shoestring budget, never quite being able to pay bills on time, staff that went 2 and 3 months without getting a paycheck because there was no money. And it was just a really tough financial time.
A month or so later, the president of the board called me into his office. He was a banker downtown, and he said, the board has decided to offer you the presidency. And I was kind of stopped in my tracks. And I said, I think I need to go home and pray about that. So I went and talked to my wife, and she said, well, you've been telling me what needs to be done there, so now's your opportunity. Why don't you take it? And so I did. I had little idea that I could have closed the college if I hadn't have been successful. But I didn't realize that for a while, and then I thought, what if we can't pay the bills and so forth? And in October that year, an alumnus of the college sent in a check for $400,000. And I knew then we were okay. We would make it. And so when I went to the next board meeting, we had paid all our bills. We had money left over. And I remember board meeting say, we've never discussed this more before, about what do we do with the money we have? You know, shall we invest it? What will we do with it? So that was an exciting time.
So at one point, the college was faced with closing the doors. At that time, I was living away from the community. I had actually changed my careers and was a nurse practitioner at that point. During that time frame, from what I understand, they were faced with the board having that tough decision, will we close the doors? And Herb Frazier had an inspiration. Herb Frazier had a plan. It was extreme, it was excessive. Nobody else except for one other college had done it. But Herb said, we should do this.
We were a member of AABC, which is an accrediting agency, and it had meeting of the presidents in this area. And the year I was president, their meeting was in Dubuque, Iowa. So my wife and I went up there to Emmaus College, and as I arrived there and they had the meeting, the president of St. Louis Bible College spoke, and he told about their full tuition scholarship and how it had helped them. And so I came back and suggested this to the board. The board was very skeptical of providing a full tuition scholarship because that was one of our main incomes. And yet, because of our small student body, it still didn't provide enough to what we needed. So I went to the board meeting, and after I presented it, I talked to one of the board members about going with me to a school who had done this and was very successful from. So he did, and it was Central Bible College, and we went, and after we were there and we saw what had happened to them when they gave the full tuition scholarship, the increase in the number of students they had and the new buildings they were able to build, that when we came back, he presented to the board, and because of him, the board decided to go along with it. And so we introduced that the next year, and we increased by about 50, 70 students over the year before. And that continued for 4 years as we had it. And so it was a great improvement for our number of students and also for income, because even though we didn't get the tuition, we still charged the board and room. And with the number of students we had, we got more money from just the board and room from those students we got than we got before with tuition. So it paid off.
Tell us about the Greensburg tornado and the relief efforts Barclay had to help Greensburg.
So this is one of my favorite stories in the journey of Barclay College.
Watch the trees up here, watch the trees. The power line. Okay, right now that's the monster wedge right there, guys. That is the tornado as it was going into Greensburg. Second flash when they come out. May 4th. And then there's 2 other groups that go in after that. They did 3 searches. And F is the first group, and D is the last group.
Near Greensburg, of course, a fairly large town, and again, a large, dangerous tornado confirmed on the ground, and it has been on the ground for some time.
In 2007, May of 2007, we heard that there were some storms coming, And I remember the day living here in Haviland where I went to the front yard with my wife to plant some flowers. It was graduation weekend. And I told her, I looked at the sky and it was green and the bugs were getting active and the wind was calm. And I said, I think we should probably go inside. And as we went inside, we watched the weather reports and we saw the radar and we saw this huge tornado coming towards Greensburg. And so then we heard the emergency alert go out. Not a normal alert, but an emergency alert that there is definite damage on the way, so find shelter. So we prayed for our friends in Greensburg, just 10 miles down the road, and watched that radar as it passed through, and then it was coming straight for Haviland. And so we were in our basement and had some neighbors with us, and again, just praying and watching, and at the very end, before it came towards Haviland, it did an immediate detour around the town.
This remains a very much an active and difficult situation with tornadoes still on the ground, still potentially doing damage across our area here this evening. So again, we urge you.
And my mom called me a few minutes later because she was watching and she said, you just experienced a Passover. And I said, you're right. And as soon as we felt relief from that, it was late at night, probably 10 o'clock at night, my daughter Sarah and my future son-in-law Gabe jumped in the car with me and we went over to Greensburg. Had to go back roads because the main roads were all blocked. And when we got there that night, it was like a war zone. Everything was flattened. There were no street signs. There were no markers. You had no idea where anything was. And we saw people coming out in blankets from their homes, from their basements, and we had no idea how much damage really had taken place. But by the next morning, it became clear about 90% of the town physically had been wiped out. Thankfully, out of 1,400 people, only about 12 were killed. 12 too many. It's tragic, but most people were safe. So the really cool part to watch then, after the devastation, was to see how the community, Kiowa County in general, rallied together, and especially the pastors and churches really stepped up. But Barclay became the center of operations for months when it came to recovery for Greensburg. So you had, all the national news folks here. You had National Guard. You had just all kinds of folks. The president visited at one point. But Barclay was the staging grounds for the recovery. And our students, of course, they had graduated or left for the summer, but when they were here that last week or so, they were extremely engaged. One of my proudest moments as a professor at Barclay College was when the graduating class of 2007 chose to set aside their graduation ceremony to host a community-wide service the Sunday after the tornado. And it was a beautiful thing, and just never been more proud to be part of Barclay College than during that time period.
I think one of the great gifts that Barclay has historically given to this community is their involvement with the youth programs in town. And I know people often think that all those youth programs are under Haviland Friends Church umbrella, and those might be the buildings that host them, but really what happens on Wednesday night with Faith Weavers, which is the younger kids, and what happens at junior high and high school youth group, those are community youth groups, that they're often students that come from not just from Haviland, but from Greensburg, and they don't come to church, or their families don't come to church on Sunday morning. And there's no other way that we could really run those programs without the students who are here. Also, in the past few years, well, maybe longer than that, maybe more like 10 now, it used to be Youth for Christ, but now it's Youth Corps. And in the same way, I'm not sure that Youth Corps can exist without the Barclay College students, the one in Pratt and the one in Greensburg. Probably one of the things that I like about Youth Corps is as Barclay College student body has grown, we have more diversity in students who come with different life experiences. And so I think that there have been great relationships that are being made from students from here with the Youth Corps students who have some similarities from their lives, and they're able to speak into their lives maybe than former students here, traditional students, haven't been able to do. Probably one of the things that I love that happens that probably no one notices very much is the unique connections that some of our students make with kids in this community and their moms, and that they offer support to be babysitters. And really it's like having, when you have a kid here in town, college students become like your older brothers and sisters. And I love that those relationships continue oftentimes even after a student leaves Barclay College. I often talk about, to me, Barclay and Haviland, or really Kiowa County, sort of have this symbiotic relationship that one can't live without the other. I really believe that's true, is I think if you would remove Barclay College out of the picture, that some of these things in the community would die. But I also think if you move any of these pieces out of the community, I think Barclay would die.
Barclay College is the only Quaker institution of higher education in the world, and that includes colleges, university, seminaries, that is evangelical. And when I say evangelical, I mean Christ-centered. We have a unique and an exceptionally important responsibility to the world of Christian Quaker thought and life.
My name is Kim Stewart, and I was at Barclay College from 1985 to 1989. I am currently an academic counselor, and I am currently a voice teacher at Barclay College. I know that God has just built me to love kids, and kids of all ages, whether they're really young or whether they are college students. But I'm really amazed at the actual people that God brings to Barclay College. There are just some amazing humans that come here, and I feel very blessed that I get to be a part of their lives and a part of their journey. I would also say that God often places students on my heart that I am drawn. I love all of them, but I also know that for certain kids there's a draw for me, and that I know that the Holy Spirit is speaking to me about connecting with that student. Sometimes it's on a not as an extensive level. Sometimes it's for prayer. Sometimes it's a smaller way or not. And then other times God places me in a place where I know that I'm meant to speak into lives and to love people and to be a part of their journey and to journey with them. And that is a huge and amazing privilege. I just feel so honored that I get to do that, because I'm really blown away. God brings amazing people to this place. It's never, a lot of times if I could choose, I would choose to walk with those people even longer, but I know that I'm called into their lives for a season and a time. And it is such a privilege to, whatever part I get to play in that, I feel very thankful. I really don't know how I became Barclay Mom, although I love that term, because I just remember even when I came here, I'm a Haviland kid and my mom was close by, but it's just a different experience to live at school. It's a different experience to live there 24/7 and be with your peers 24/7. And I do remember not having a lot of contact with adult people outside of the Barclay community. And so I think I was just very aware of that, that's something that young people actually do desire, and they do want to have adults in their lives that invest in them. And so it was just kind of a natural, as I came onto campus and just started talking to people and connecting, I think of you all as my other children. I really do. And so it just kind of was a natural outflow. I think that's increased even more since my biological children actually go here, because now I know even more of you, and I see people and I know people even better. So I don't know how it really happened, but again, I see that as a huge honor and a privilege, and I love it. I'll keep that title forever.
I do what I do. Well, God's called me to this. C.D. Fitch. I am maintenance, and I attended from 1964 to 1969 with a pastoral ministry degree. I came here 28 years ago with no idea that I would even like what I was doing. It was not really my field, I didn't think, but I've always had a heart for young kids. But that's because God I'm passing on what God gave me. The love that, because I love you guys, and I've been at this a long time, and I've got a lot of kids that I consider my kids out there that are in their 40s and whatever. But this is just, God just gave me love for this and for people. So I'm just passing on, trying to pass on what God's dumped on me. So I'd have to have a good memory, which I'm lacking there. I love to help kids. Now I have some qualifications. I like to help kids that are working hard and trying to make it, and they're in trouble, whether it's financial help or just being there for them. I just feel like I'm on call all the time. If somebody needs me, I'm going to be there. That's just being a friend. That's just being a friend. It's just love on them. And just have time for them. Some kids are here in campus that I never really get to know, but God just puts certain people somehow, some way in my life. And then when they get in my heart, then I just try to love them. I get to see people grow spiritually. I also have to watch kids mess up their lives. You don't quit loving them. So I don't know. I just help kids any way they ask. If I can do it, I'm going to do it for them. I hope my life shows them that God is very real. And He's very loving. I want to be remembered that I love people. I just do what I do, basically. I don't know why I do it. I do it because God loves me, and I want to be burnt up when I leave this world. I don't want to be anything left. I want to be used up, and I want God to use me till the day I quit breathing. And so that's what I'm doing here. This is God's work. This whole place is. My feeling is very strong that if you're here, you ought to feel called to ministry. It's not perfect, it never will be, but our mission is to change kids' lives. Some of them come here in great shape, but they still grow, and I think there needs to be a lot of personal growth along with the education.
God is such a big God, and He does so many different things for different people when they come here. But maybe to boil that down, that would be my heart and my desire, is that whatever student comes to this place, that they experience the true and living God, and they experience Him working in their lives, and that they find themselves in a place where they'll respond to that. That is my heart's desire. And so for me, I think that's what I see as the mission, is that students connect. If they knew God before, they connect in a deeper and a stronger way, and He molds them and shapes them and takes them where He wants them to be. If they haven't met Him before, I hope that they see the true and living God, not just the idea of what they've always thought God is or who He is, that they experience Him on a personal and first-hand basis, and that their lives are transformed because of that. So I think that's maybe how I would put it, is that they meet Him and they're changed by coming here.
The mission of the college is to whatever they're going into, they're going to make a difference for the Lord. They're going to show the world that I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And that's what people need to see.
The reason that's actually listed in the college's very first catalog was this. For the past decade, there had been a heavy burden on many consecrated hearts for the Lord to open a way for a sound Bible training school in Kansas yearly meeting. Through the opposition in dark places, the way gradually opened up in answer to earnest prayers. In the past few months, many of our promising young Christian workers have gone to Indiana, Ohio, and California to a training school, taking them far from home at a great expense. The necessity of and the demand for sound orthodox teaching of the Word of God is the reason for founding this training school, since it seems that such teaching is not given in regular schools of education. It's deemed best to establish a school primarily for that purpose.
I think our mission has always been fairly consistent. The mission, we have dates, used other words, but the mission to prepare students in a Bible-centered environment has always been key to us. It was the purpose when it was founded in 1917, so that's always been the key. I think the purpose today is the same. I think the Barclay of the 21st century, if I could project forward in a personal way, would be that we would take more seriously the concept of everyone's a minister. And for 100 years, we prepared people for ministry professions. But if everyone's a minister, we need to prepare people in every profession.
I'm Mariana Sheck.
I'm Hunter Fitch.
Maya Giles. Sarah Easterwood.
Derek Nilsson. I'm a senior here at Barclay College.
I'm a sophomore.
I'm a freshman.
I'm a junior.
I'm a business administration major.
Missions.
Elementary ed.
Youth ministry, pastoral ministry, and Bible theology.
Psychology and family studies.
Bible theology. Worship arts. Youth ministry.
Pastoral ministries. Associates of biblical studies.
I'm Isaac.
We are Barclay.
I think to me, Barclay has really changed my life. I think the Kaylee that came in here in fall of 2017 is not the same person who's sitting here today.
But I hope that when students leave Barclay, they feel like someone cared about them, someone invested in them, someone helped them grow, and somebody was there for them when they needed it. And so what I see as the mission might be my own personal mission more than the mission of Barclay. My mission is to help you guys grow as people.
This had an amazing impact on me, academically, educationally, but also formationally. I've been blessed to have some great professors, and I had some great professors back at Jacksonville University, but none were ever impactful. I remember some great lectures, but none ever formed me. Here, I had professors who not only taught, but they also shaped, and that makes all the difference. When the opportunity came to come here full-time, Jess and I prayed about it, but it was almost just a no-brainer. It was a chance for us to give back and contribute into successive generations the Barclay way. And as much as we need to bring in fresh ideas, fresh blood, sometimes there's no better way to maintain the Barclay way than someone who's gone through it.
I was here from 1966 to 1968. I got an associate's here.
And I was a student from 1965 to 1969. We were missionaries in Guatemala for 16 years. Not 16 years straight, because I taught here twice during those times.
Well, when we came to college with our call, and Gene had determined not to date anyone who didn't have a call. So that kind of worked out that he asked me out.
I determined that I wasn't going to date seriously anyone that didn't have a call to missions, because I was called to missions. And when I saw her and found out she was called to missions, I hit the jackpot. So anyway, I wouldn't say we were called together, but we came together because both of us had the same call to missions. And as far as how Barclay influenced us toward missions, again, I think it gave us the foundation, biblical foundation, and then just a sense of community and so forth. I had already been called into missions, so I came here to prepare in the sense of studying Bible and theology, and that was my area of ministry and teaching, pastoral training. As far as missions here at the college, when I was here, there were only 3 courses listed in the catalog, and actually only one of those was taught, and that was world religions. Now we have a full-fledged major in missions, but at that time we didn't. So as far as missions training here, in the sense of actual missions courses, there really weren't any. But I felt like the Bible theology courses gave me a good foundation for my future work. Just the fact that we're a Bible college and we're teaching students for ministry, and one of those areas of ministry is missions. And we have a good missions program, a full-fledged, as I said, full-fledged major in missions now. So there's a lot more preparation than when I was here. Herb Fraser has, in one of his publications, noted that there were 146 missionaries from Barclay College, 47 countries. Now, that needs to be qualified a little bit because several of those were short-term, but there have been a large number of full-time missionaries who have gone out of Barclay College as well. As far as how Barclay influenced us toward missions, again, I think it gave us the foundation, biblical foundation, and then just a sense of community and so forth.
Juniors Global is an opportunity to take the classroom into the global setting. So students, it's geared towards juniors, hence the name, and so it gives students the opportunity to enroll in a class as Juniors Global to learn about missions and cross-cultural experiences, the pros and the cons to that. Countries and the roles can range from South America to Europe to Asia to Africa, so it literally is global. Students have the opportunity to work sometimes in a psychology field, or working with refugees in Greece, working with those who have been affected by sex trafficking, or those that are so impoverished and don't have homes, and so helping build homes. So all of the experiences with Juniors Global give students an educational background of those places, also about missions just in a more broad sense, while also giving the hands-on experience to learn a new culture, to live in that culture, and have the missions aspect. Students and leaders alike are transformed in huge ways, and honestly, the first reason for that is because they're opening themselves up to the Lord, and that can happen both in the classroom in Haviland, Kansas, and across the world in Africa. All the different organizations and people that you meet and the stories that you hear, it really helps put in perspective what matters in life, and not just their life is so much harder than mine. Sometimes our priorities are messed up, and when you, again, for example, with Greece, when you meet refugees that used to have a ton of material things, but they're saying that none of that matters because they have Christ. We don't know that very well in the States. We say that, but we don't have that same level of persecution or that same feeling of being forced into that. And so there's so many different layers of transformation that happen on these Juniors Global trips, because it does impact students on every level, from an education standpoint, a spiritual standpoint, a personal standpoint with the Lord, and with yourself. You learn a lot about yourself on these Juniors Global trips. And it's not always a pretty little package bow. It's the parts of yourself that you're like, wow, that's not a good thing, and I never want anybody to see that again. And so you just have the ability to be transformed in every aspect of who you are.
We have been blessed in the pastoral ministry department in two ways. One is we have seen tremendous growth. We are actually, I believe, now running the largest numbers we have in the last 20 years. And we've also seen the highest placement numbers. I think at the last check, we're running between 95 and 99% placement rates. That's huge, but it's huge and for a couple of reasons. One is we're reaching a place in America where the number of full-time jobs for pastors is shrinking. It's a harder market. And that tells me a couple things. One is, in that shrinking market, people are looking at our Barclay graduates and saying, out of all the applicants, our Barclay graduates stand out. In fact, I had a seminary president tell me that a Barclay undergraduate degree is worth about half a Master's of Divinity degree. The other thing it tells me is this: there are churches that simply cannot afford to pay a full-time pastor. That doesn't seem to stop our graduates. They're not in it for the money. They're in it to serve God. And if that is my only influence and impact on the program, is to foster a culture of openness and willingness, then I could retire happy with that. I think our students want to go change the world, and I think they're doing it.
So for quite a few years in Mid-America, we've had teams from Barclay College that have come as counselors. We've had several youth pastors and youth workers in Mid-America that have graduated from Barclay College. And so for many, many years, we've had youth pastors who've served as directors, as counselors, as people kind of in charge of those programs over the years. Barclay kind of has this weird, because of the amount of graduates from Barclay College that are serving in French churches across the world, actually, that I've had several weird occasions where I'll be communicating with somebody on email or somebody that I know, and I'll walk out of my house and they'll be standing in the road in front of my house. There's been several times where I've been surprised with whom I have seen when I come out of my house. One quick story is like Joy Lujan, who's a part of the summit planning team. We had been communicating via email, and I didn't know her, had never met her. I sent her an email, and then I went home, and there was this person walking down the street. It happened to be Joy Lujan, who was here for a graduation. So Barclay kind of has that weird. It's fascinating who you'll run into here at Barclay College.
I would say in high school, but I didn't know. I wouldn't have called it a calling then. But I really enjoyed being in band. I played drums in band, and the spring semester of my junior year, our teacher challenged us to learn a different instrument, and I don't know what she had in mind, if she had, switching wind instruments or whatever, but since I played drums, I didn't have any interest in picking up a wind instrument, and so I asked her if I could learn guitar, and she said, yeah, that would be fine. And so I started taking guitar lessons, and just got more involved in music, and then when I came to Barclay as a student, for whatever reason, I did the church music. At that time it was called church music major, and took music theory and really enjoyed the music theory class, and was in choir and stuff, and just felt like, yeah, this is something I want to do. And I knew that I was going to transfer to Friends. I just didn't know when, but I knew I would eventually end up there. And music ed seemed like a logical thing to do music, and I knew I would have a solid income based on that, rather than trying to be a performance major. I knew that that wasn't my thing. So that was the calling into music. The continuation of a music ministry with choir, but also with worship teams. And then, so that side of it, kind of the worship / congregational side of the fine arts department. And then somehow figuring in a more performance side, having an instrumental group would be really cool of some sort, and kind of along those lines. Of course, the drama part that's being done by Randy is great. Keep incorporating that, which incorporates dance into what she's been doing, which is fantastic. And then I guess another layer on top of that would be bringing in traveling groups to do stuff like concerts in the Fine Arts Building, ranging anywhere from solo acts to quartets to gospel things to instrumental things. I guess for the students that are involved, it gives them a creative outlet, but it also gives them a family within the family to be part of, and is spiritual formation for them as they're involved in whatever it is, the musical, choir, worship teams, individual lessons, any of those. I'm hoping that it's rounding out their whole life, being able to be involved in those kinds of things.
In 2017, when the Ross Ellis Center was completed, Royce asked me to come back and be the guest director for the first production in the new facility. So that was really exciting. So of course I came back and we directed Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. It was such a huge success. Royce asked me to come back the next year, and we directed and produced Disney's Beauty and the Beast, which was another huge success. And then he decided, and Shane and I decided, and God decided that it was time for us to move to Barclay full-time. So that's why I'm here now. I think the theater department is really important. So there are a lot of people who have different talents and gifts. So of course we have our athletes, so the basketball players and the volleyball players. You have those who are called to ministry. You have those who are called to be teachers, and there are different gifts among all the students here at Barclay. So theater is a unique creature, and so you can be involved in a lot of different things in a lot of different majors, but really fall in love with theater. I am a big believer in the power of story. Even Jesus really believed in story as he told stories in parables. People really relate to story. And so my goal here at Barclay is to have productions that really reflect the story of redemption. So even if it's through Beauty and the Beast or a different story that would be considered a secular story, I think we can still show that power of redemption on stage. But a lot of the magic actually happens backstage as well, because when you're in theater, you're spending so much time together, you really become a family, and great relationships can be built backstage, and it's memories for me and for the students that really last forever. The theater department here at Barclay really will have and has already had a big impact on the community. When we do productions like Disney's Beauty and the Beast, we can impact a group of people that may not come in to our college for a Christian speaker or a Christian concert, but it's something that really can reach a lot of different people, and also bringing kids and young adults and high schoolers into the theater and onto our campus, and they can see really what great work we do and what high quality productions look like. And so it really does impact the community just by bringing in opportunities that they would have to travel hours to see otherwise, and it's right here in our community for them to come and enjoy wonderful pieces of art right here at the Ross Ellis Center.
My name is Kaylee Smallbeck. I am currently a student here at Barclay, and I also work within the social media department here at the school. I came to Barclay in fall of 2017, and I'm still here. I get asked a lot at Barclay how I got into doing editing, just because not a whole lot of students do something like that here. And it goes way back to when I was growing up, that I used to make little movies and stuff on my camera while we were on 9-hour road trips to Montana. They were really dumb, but it was really fun to do it because it was telling a story throughout all of it. And after that, I didn't really do much, and it kind of just fell to the wayside. In high school, we had an art teacher. We had an idea as a group of us that we wanted to make a video for her birthday. Just because she had gone through a lot of stuff that year with losing her mom to cancer, and just watching that entire battle kind of unravel during the school year. And so we made a video that we showed to her on her birthday, kept it an entire surprise, and it was the coolest thing to film, because it was not only just doing something really sweet for her, but it was sharing the story of how she's impacted each of us there as students. After that, it was kind of just on and off, and I didn't really get back into it at Barclay until Beauty and the Beast last year.
Last year during Beauty and the Beast, I had a couple of students ask me, could we make some promo videos to post online to help attract people to the show? Well, as you know, with Disney, you have to be very careful with copyright, so I was very hesitant at first to be able to promote things about Beauty and the Beast or any of the other productions where we have licensing. So if you've ever seen a contract for licensing a show, it is several pages thick with lots of legal jargon, and I just was really worried about promoting and doing anything that would infringe copyright. Well, Kaylee Smallbeck would come to rehearsal and she would ask me almost every rehearsal, hey, can I shoot some footage for a promo? Hey, can I do a promo video? Can we do some promo video? So I kept putting her off and said, no, let's just wait. No, let's wait. I need to see what we can do and what is okay with the copyright. And finally I said, you know what, just do something. Put it together, let's see what we've got. So a week later, I come back for rehearsal and she comes in with this clip that is 20 seconds of brilliance that just was filmed in black and white. It was powerful. We had the music in the background. We had our characters from Beauty and the Beast, and I was really impressed. So at that point, I really started to dig in and say, okay, what can we do to promote? Forced me to learn some things I didn't know. And because of the social media impact that we had for our production of Beauty and the Beast, over 20,000 views, and probably more than that, but by opening night, that's what it was. And so that really helped bring people in. It also showed me that we do have some talent here on campus that was a little bit hidden.
When beforehand we had made a video recapping retreat in fall of 2018, that kind of just took off, and the actor who's playing the Beast, Jared Daniels, approached me and said, hey, do you want to do promo videos for the show? And we talked with Randy
several times.
And it was a lot of pushing, saying like, I think this would be really cool. I think this would be like really neat for the school to do something like this. And I don't know.
And I'm glad I finally said yes.
Yeah.
Barclay had social media accounts and have had for a while. So we have a Twitter account and Instagram and Facebook, but there really wasn't a department in charge of that. We didn't really have people who were dedicated to making weekly posts. We had some great photos. Casey Roberts, of course, does an amazing job with photography, and he would post those. But really to have a dedicated team to really push and promote and keep track of when things should post, that hadn't really happened yet. And so because of Beauty and the Beast and that success, when I arrived as the Director of Fine Arts, that wasn't initially something that was in my job description, but as Kaylee and I talked, and as I talked with some of the other staff, we realized this is truly a digital world, and especially the students and prospective students that are coming in, that's where they learn about the school. So we can have word of mouth, which is wonderful, and you can have the churches talk about it, and you can have your alumni talk about the college, but really where students look is online. And so as we talked and we thought, you know what, we can probably take this on. I wasn't ready to do it myself, but Kaylee, of course, has a passion for this too. And being a student, she understands the social media world better than I do, and can help me keep up to date too.
Red Friday. I think coming into the position, I didn't want to just sit and like, I don't know, monitor the Facebook page or anything like that, or just make videos. Like, it felt like there was more to the school that needed to be shown than just through like one video talking about orientation or one video talking about retreat. And so I think one day during a class, I had an idea of like, we have Red Friday every Friday, and like we never really talk about it beyond just like the college world, and just beyond, I don't know, Haviland, so to say. And so I was thinking about it and said, why don't we sit there every Friday and post about a student who's here at the college and share not only like how they got here, what they're studying, but also like what their journey at Barclay has looked like and how the community like around the world can be praying for them and for the school. It blew up to the point where that first Red Friday, it was about a freshman from Colorado, Lily, and I wasn't expecting much to happen. I was like, okay, it's going to be like every other Facebook post we posted. People just kind of scroll past it and they're like, oh cool, it's something from Barclay, move on. And like, we got over, at least 1,000 people looking at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And after that, it just continued like blowing up, where there were like, we highlighted the stewards on Friday, and that got over 3,000. I think at this point in time, just last week we highlighted Jamaica, and that got over 5,000.
5,000 views.
And it's slowly just growing and growing. Where like, I think at this point it's not just sharing what Barclay is doing right now, but sharing about like these stories from these different students about this is how Barclay has impacted me and how God has like woven in Barclay into my own personal story, and wanting to share that with the world. I think like especially with Red Friday posts, like just as that's probably the biggest example that we have, just because there's so many people that they see so and so from their church or their niece, their nephew, whoever, their grandkid tagged in it, because we tag all of those posts, and they see it and they get to see like this school out in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, and they're like, hey, what's this all about? And that leads people to looking more and more. So in a sense, it's growing Barclay is in the sense of like these stories are being shared and more people are coming and looking and being like, what is this place all about?
Again, the social media footprint helps spread the word of Barclay, and so with this last Red Friday, we have over 5,000 people who have seen the photo. We have over 36 people who have shared it, and I can't even say how many comments we've had because a lot of those are private. And so more people are seeing the name Barclay College, are reading a little bit what our mission is just in each of those posts about praying for this student and praying for Barclay College. And so it's free promotion that people share for us, and the fact that it's personal, it's not just an ad, the fact that it's about a student here, I agree, is absolutely what helps push the boundaries that we have right now, and our kind of our little footprint here is expanding nationwide and worldwide.
What are your hopes for the college moving forward?
This is a special place. This is an amazing place where God has worked and the kingdom has been built. This little college in the middle of nowhere. I believe in this mission because I was a part of it, and I am a part of it.
I think that we'd be successful, that we'd be strategically successful in broadening our scope. I think, I think there's kind of a dangerous teetering thing. Every college survives because it has students. I mean, that's just it. That's how we survive. That's how we pay the bills and everything. But I'd like to think that we think beyond that we aren't quite that shallow, that we're a little deeper, that we are jealous that every student gets a chance to experience this community, to get to experience you guys. I think that's really exciting for me, that this community is so pervasive, that it is so compelling, that students would come, that they would want to be a part of it, that Barclay College would see students come, and Barclay College would grow, not for growth, but because of our faith community.
You love to come back. People love to come back. This is a special place. And it's a special place because God has ordained this place.
We are Barclay College.
We are Barclay.
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 We are Barclay. We are Barclay.
We are Barclay.
was arrested, my life began. Ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. My orphan heart was given a name. My morning grew quiet, my feet rose to dance. When death was arrested, my life began. Oh, your grace, so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. Release from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was arrested. Criminals